So
then of course, the biggest news
yes,
of the last decade.
I should say to everybody, Happy Victoria Day for all of my friends in Canada, the UK, and Australia, New Zealand.
Hmm.
But the biggest news is that the video game of the century has been announced, where we're going to get a Victoria 3 coming out
Hmm.
sometime before the heat death of the universe, which is good.
Which is good. I am. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I tried to contain myself as much as I could on Twitter when it was announced, and even then, like I had a hard time containing myself.
Yeah, when I was reading how it worked and what their plan is, like their design philosophy for it, I was like,
Hmm.
Mia's going to be astrally projecting what reading this stuff because it's like, no, it's about how different classes in society are going to interact with people and economics. And
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, like Marxism might rise if your working class becomes too educated. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. And they're finally simulating people who aren't like adult working class people, like men. Like they're finally like simulating like children and women. Um, this shit is everything that I'm going to be talking about once it comes out.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to rebrand my entire thing once Victoria 3 releases. I'm going to stream 23 hours a day, just Victoria 3 constantly forever. Like it's never going to end.
Yeah. So there are some things I'm looking forward to seeing in Victoria that I want to see how it plays out. Um, I like first of all, okay, so like the big thing is, yeah, they're going to be representing all different classes of the population, and they're going to represent different interest groups, and sort of which ones you bring in or leave out will lead to different types of political turmoil. So like if
Mhm.
you go to anti-workers' rights, you're probably going to end up with like leftists and disaffected like revolutionaries. If you go to like massaging and maneuvering your way through that is a big deal. The big one that I've been waiting for them to do for ages, which is that they're going to have this emphasis where it's like you could play through an entire campaign without going to war, and you'll have a
Yes,
good time. And I'm like, finally.
at last. They've never been able to do this. They tried to make Stellaris into it, which is why I'm really excited because the former game director for Stellaris is the person who's leading Victoria, which I think is great because that because I apparently he was accused of trying to recreate Victoria in Stellaris
Oh
with like
boy,
factions and population classes and work pops and shit of that nature. Um, but now we're fine. We're fine.
we're getting there.
We're gonna.
Now, I know that you'll have a lot more to say when they get to the part where they do the dev diary on the economics part, like the
Hmm.
resource management part, because that'll be a big deal. Where you'll
Hmm.
realize, I love that they're explicitly saying, like, it's first of all so much Marxist analysis in this game because it's just like talking about how like your ability to access luxury clothes is going to decide the political future of your country, and like I'm just imagining a German man with a big beard going like, "Yes, finally, they're understanding the truth."
At last, they see the material conditions of the cloth of Italy.
Well, they're like basically like they're the entire game seems like it's focused on political economy. Like that's its thing.
Yeah,
Here's my
and
specific,
I love it. It's gonna be great.
yeah, my specific wants from my Victoria 2 experience to see if they can improve this. There's a couple things. One, I want to see if they can incentivize the sort of not decolonization that happened before the world wars, like the creation, like the British creating dominions and stuff like that. Like in Victorian age, that's when the British decided to like cut off, like to turn Canada into a semi-independent state, and they made Australia and New Zealand. So I'd be interested
Hmm.
to see if they simulate that in any capacity.
They might. I know
Like,
that they're changing how colonialism works, so that the world isn't just empty until Europe comes in and sets up a flag. Now there are actually people living everywhere.
yeah, having like an actual like gameplay incentive for like letting go of territory is never a thing they've been good at. So I'd love to see what they do with that. The
Yeah.
second is if they're going to simulate at all in any actual functioning capacity the American government. Because in Victoria 2, the American government is a representation is proportional representation, where the conservative party, called the Democrats, never ever lose power ever under any circumstances. Then
They can't. Ever.
yeah. And then in the expansion they made specifically for America, all they do is have a series of hard-coded issues to deal with slavery until it boils over into a civil war that is just hard-coded at the in-universe date of the beginning of the Civil War. So
you can't get around it.
yeah, so I would love if the Civil War was a thing that, one, you could avoid, or two, had some sort of like dynamic, like based on the crises system for doing that. And it sounds like they're going to have like a lot of effort put into like revolutionary and independence movements and stuff like that. So they'll probably have the mechanics to do it. But second,
The fact that you can, because I remember them saying somewhere that you can, in a case of rebellion, you can side with the rebels.
yeah, and that was me.
Changes everything.
That was me going like, maybe this is just that was me saying, oh yeah, this is so that you can choose which side of the Civil War you end up on.
But also, that means you can pick a side in any civil war.
Yeah,
You can do anything.
which makes
or
me
any-
wish that hopefully think that there'll be a bookmark where you can play as the Paris Commune and try to survive with just like one
Oh.
province.
Oh, that would be fun. I mean, someone's going to mod that in for sure. I know people have been modding it into vanilla Victoria, but it doesn't really work that well in that game. The thing that I'm very excited about, though, is that they're changing how population works. Because sorry that we're talking about a video game forever, but that's what's going to happen. In Victoria 2, like a person just has like a culture and a religion, and the second they move to America, they all become Protestant Christians, and that's it, like instantly. Now they're giving people like heritage traits and linguistic traits, so that in America, white British people won't be discriminated against the same way as like every other person. Like they will be slightly like less political power than like white Americans, but like black Americans will have significantly less power than, for example, like a white
And
Frenchman, for example. And
and you
Frenchmen are
could-
slightly different than the British because they have different languages, like different linguistic groups.
and that's not only useful to simulate like the sort of caste system in America and like racism and ethnic, but also like what this is going to be used for is another thing that wasn't greatly done in Victoria that Victoria 3 will cover, and it'll be amazing, hopefully, is that they're going to cover mass immigration, because the 19th century was just when everybody was moving everywhere. And so immigration patterns, like what drives people to move, like imagine like if like the Civil War goes really bad and America gets fucked up, maybe you don't end up with like massive European migration into America. So the Midwest looks completely different, but also Europe looks really different. And so like I feel like all of those things could, I don't know, there's a lot you could do. There's so much that could go with.
Because in the second game, the only thing that happens is that everyone just moves to America and Brazil, and that's it. Half of Europe just moves up and leaves to America, and that's the only thing that does with immigration. And this is going to change everything regarding that. I am so fucking excited. I've never been this hyped for a video game since StarCraft 2 when I was a child.
Yeah, well, okay. I just felt old there. For me, it was StarCraft 1 when I was a child. So the other thing, too, that's another hopeful thing that I hope to see. I don't know if it'll be a thing, but it feels like the best chassis we're going to get to make a Cold War total conversion mod.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you think about the Victorian age in this sense, it's not dissimilar from the Cold War, and especially with that new crisis system that they're working on to sort of replace the what I think in Victoria 2 by the end is just like the 6 or 7 or 8 World War Ones that happen near the end of the game every time now. You get if you have at least if you don't have at least 6 World War Ones by the end of your Victoria 2 campaign.
Yeah, the Fifth Great War.
Um,
it's gonna be great.
So, but like the thing is, if you do a Cold War kind of conversion mod, you could do like those crises, and it's like, yeah, but if the crisis fails, all life on Earth is eradicated.
If this leads to war, it's just over. But how about this though? A bit out of left field as well, because like they're talking about different political ideologies this time. First of all, communism is not going to just be the government that does stuff, which is in Victoria 2, because that's what communism is in Victoria 2. Not only does communism actually do communism, but you can also do anarchism.
Yeah.
Proper anarchism in Victoria.
I think I'm learning very quickly that you can tell that Paradox has gone from being a liberal organization to a more socialist organization. At least the designers, like, you can tell that they're reading theory as time moves on, because like their early ones are just all like, the more liberal it is, the more better it is, right? And then also, but then like in the middle they were like, yeah, but what if we simulated fascism and then we made that have positive side effects? And then they were like, wait, all these gaming sites are writing articles about how we're embracing fascism and we made a video game that might have actually
just love our games.
Yeah. It's weird how we made a video game that's one of the games responsible for like the culture of the alt-right, and then it's like, oh no, now we're gonna go a hard pass, and now like, because I was like, Crusader Kings 2 is part of like the people are talking about like games that are really popular with the alt-right. And so they're like, all right, Crusader Kings 3 is now the gayest Crusader Kings there is, with a bunch of
asexual. Fuck you, racists.
Yeah. So like that was great. And then also they just got rid of a lot of their very European concepts, like you live here, you live in this country, so therefore everybody is 25% dumber just because you live in the brown country. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Like, didn't Victoria have like a whole thing where like people were called uncivilized and civilized stuff? And it's like, ooh.
So in Victoria 2, there are primitive nations, there are uncivilized nations, there are partially westernized nations, civilized nations, secondary powers, and great powers. These are the type of countries that there are.
That's gonna be a big oof from me. Yeah.
Yeah. I love invading a primitive country with my superior great power guns.
Now
that's how the games is, and now they're going to have unrecognized countries, which that's interesting. Unrecognized and unorganized.
Yeah,
which is a bit more respectful, I feel like.
I would be very interested to see if they, because they're gonna have to have something baked into like the imperial racism that led to like being like European countries feeling like they could just fuck around with like many nations around the world. But if they like claimed 12 inches in the Ruhr region, a world war would break out over it, like. Yeah. So that'd be interesting. Yeah. And so I know all the playthroughs I'm going to do. I know that I'm going to try and make a black separatist state in America. I know that I'm going to try to break off Canada and then break off Quebec and have a Quebec becomes great power playthrough again. And then also old sick man of Europe pulls out a knife and starts stabbing people.
Oh, that's my favorite as well.
Yeah.
That and I don't know. The first thing I'm going to do is just Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is always fun. It's a good Yugoslavia and Poland, Lithuania. Poland doesn't exist at the start of this game, but it can if you play your cards right.
And then maybe Long Chile, just for fun.
Awesome.
Once you get to
we should play this together when it comes out.
Yes.
For sure. Like Crusader Kings 3 didn't really hold my attention that long, but this is gonna. I feel like this is gonna hit.
They did announce too that Crusader Kings 3 is adding a whole thing where you get to decorate a throne room and hear petitions from your throne, which sounds pretty badass.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fun. It
I need
seems like
to-
Crusader Kings 3 is a good game.
I need to I need to go back to Crusader Kings 3. It was a really good game that I feel like I just need to put the hours in to really have fun with.
Yeah.
And then apparently they're also just doing an update to Hearts of Iron 4 that, as far as I can tell, it's like, this is the first time since launch we decided to put attention to this small belligerent in the war called the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
It's like, we forgot about
fine.
these little guys. We were too busy
Yes.
making sure that you could simulate Albanian politics or something.
No, Portugal got an update before the Soviet Union did. Portugal's not even in the war. That's just how it is. Italy still hasn't gotten anything. Italy is never going to get anything.
We already expressed why, because they invented fascism, which I guess in a World War II game, it should be a thing that you pay attention to, but also you don't deserve it. There's a video out about Italy and Italians, and our statement on this is now well known and on the record, and it is on TikTok. So,
God bless.